And I remember, like, when we'd get into nasty arguments, I was like, so basically what you're telling me is I could be a serial killer, but if my house was clean, it would be fine, right? And it was really, really frustrating for me because it was like I was drowning, right? I was drowning. I was taking sips from a small straw. I was working full time, and not that she hadn't either. She was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And again, I'm not demeaning like any choices, but it's like, give me a break, you
Yeah.
know? And that was a big thing with her, and that was a really, really hard piece for me with her. It was very important to both her and my dad, like, things and appearances and all that were really yeah, it was a rough one.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls, conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own and diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go. I want to take us back to that idea of the mental or cognitive load, because I think that's really important. I read some articles. There's a reporter named Jessica Gross. She does op-eds for the New York Times, and she talks about that idea, the mental load. And she says it's the mostly invisible combination of anxiety and planning that is part of parenting, like the holding it all together. And I think that's such a telling concept.
Absolutely. Because, yeah, like you said, there is the heavy lifting part of raising kids, and running a home, like the physical things you do. And my ex-husband was good at that. Like he was good at helping with the physical things. But there's, yes, this mental load that women feel. And not that men don't worry about their kids, but I just think it's different. I think women hold on to and overthink and worry and, play out things excessively in their mind, and it leads to their emotional exhaustion.
100%. And it's that old adage about like, oh, we should plan a vacation, and you're doing like all this research, and meanwhile he's like, all right, I'm packed, where are we going? You know what I mean? It's like, and part of it's our fault, right? Like
and some women pack for their husbands even.
Yes.
Because I am an empty nester and my kids are not front and center, that's not as prevalent as it was, but it never goes away. Like my brain is always like, when my menopause brain wakes me up at 3 a.m., you can be sure I'm worrying or thinking about, whatever's going on with one of my kids at the time.
Yeah. 100%. And it's funny because, all the mental load, the cognitive load, and how you divvy up, quote unquote, the chores and kind of what that looks like in a partnership. It's that day-to-day stuff that really can suck the life out of a partnership. I remember when I was first married and I was pregnant, and I remember washing dishes, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. I was freaking exhausted, right? I'm pregnant. And I remember asking my husband if he could help me with the dishes. And he's like, I'm so tired. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm not. Like, really? Right? And we joke about that now, right? But it's like, when it comes down to it, I think that like women don't see their own exhaustion as a reason not to do something, not to bake the zucchini muffins, not to like scrub the floor, not to like call the friend that they said they were going to call, right? Like that's not a good enough excuse.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to the fact that we're not given permission to prioritize our needs, even when we're literally like totally exhausted.
Yeah.
We feel like something's
Totally to our detriment. I think it's been kept under the rug for so long because there's a lot of shame around it. And it's not like women feel comfortable saying, this enough is enough. Like, I want this more equally divided or whatever that is, right? Because that stuff's been going on forever. It just, nobody's going to come out and say that, right? Nobody except people like Gloria Steinem, right? Like, that's how the feminism movement was born. And I remember, actually, this is one of my favorite stories about my husband. So my oldest is a boy and my youngest is a girl, just like Karen's birth daughter. And I remember my husband was like, because he comes from a family of 2 boys, right? And I was like, please, I want a girl, right? And we had one. He was just beside himself. Like, he did not know what to do. He was freaking out. He's like, I don't know what to do with girls. I don't do their hair. I don't. And I'm like, oh my God, could you sound more chauvinistic, right? But to his credit, right? Like, he wanted to do his research. So I have a signed copy of Revolution from Within by Gloria Steinem. She went to my school, and I remember going to book reading, and I got it. So he's like, I'm going to read this. I'm like, all right, way to like start slow, right, dude?
Dive in.
Yeah. And so like, I remember being in the living room and I'm pregnant and I'm dealing with my toddler, and he walks in the room and he's got the book in front of him, and he's like, were you aware of this? I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, and he's pointing, I'm like, aware of what? Right? Like, did you know about this mistreatment and all these things that have been going on against this like war against women throughout history? And I was trying so hard, right? Like, nope, not aware at all, right? Thanks for bringing it to my attention. Like, I was trying not to be sarcastic, like, bless his little heart, like, oh my God. And I was like, I think I remember saying something like, yeah, I'm aware. It's a little much, isn't it?
Yeah, I think men are pretty clueless unless they've had a woman kind of educate them. And, there is some, back and forth that has to go on when you're in a relationship, and, because they have to know what it's like, like they have to, meaning we have to tell them what it's like. We have to ask for help. We have to share the household labor, and hats off to the Gen Zers who are getting it right. And props to your man too. I mean, that's for him to be he didn't pick up the what to expect when you're expecting, right?
Right.
How do I change a diaper?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's a good man right there.
I know. And I loved him for it. I was trying not to be too like I didn't want to dull his fire, right? Because I thought it was really awesome, but it was just like, wow, this is a chilling statement about like what really percolates through in the male experience even now, right? And I also remember like one of the other things we've been talking about is like the messages our daughters receive, right? And so sometimes, when he's not thinking and he makes a careless comment that kind of resonates in that way, I always just light into him. And my thing is, and he agrees with me. I mean, he's really good about it once he sees it, but I'm always like, she gets enough of that bullshit from society. She doesn't need that kind of like role, I don't even know what you want to call it, but genderizing like roles kind of stuff from her father. Like that's she doesn't need any help getting those messages. She's going to get them. Like we got to try to counteract that as much as we possibly can so that she can make her own choices. Right. I mean, and this coming from a woman who's raised by, a woman who every night on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor until 11 p.m. Right. And then I remember, we fought about this, right? Her passive aggressive comment after I got married and kids was like, oh my gosh, I admire you so much for prioritizing time with your family over cleaning your house. And it was like, right. And I remember like when we'd get into nasty arguments, I was like, so basically what you're telling me is I could be a serial killer, but if my house was clean, it would be fine. Right. And it was really, really frustrating for me because it was like, I was drowning, right? I was drowning. I was taking sips from a small straw. I was working full time. And not that she hadn't either. She was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And again, I'm not demeaning like any choices, but it's like, give me a break, you know? And that was a big thing with her. And that was a really, really hard piece for me with her. It was very important to both her and my dad, like things and appearances and all that were really, it was a rough one.
Hey, fabulous Drinks with the Girls listeners. Guess what? We have something exciting happening here at Drinks with the Girls. We have a way for you, our listeners, to be involved. You can be part of our Drinks with the Girls Pod Squad support team. Creating a sisterhood of empowered women is our goal, and we are so grateful you are here.
You can help us get the word out about Drinks with the Girls because we want all women to feel the support of a powerful community behind them. Here's what you need to do. Get in touch with one of us via email and let us know you want to be an official part of the Drinks with the Girls Pod Squad. Go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe or follow Drinks with the Girls if you haven't already. Every month, we need you to share.
Share with a girlfriend via text, share to your email newsletter, share on your socials, share from the rooftops. The more you share, the more chances you have to win fabulous prizes at the end of every month. Simply send us a screenshot every time you share. Every share is a chance to win, so the more you share, the more chances you have to win each month.
Here are some of the awesome prizes available. A coupon code for $100 off a 4-month coaching package with Karen. A discount coupon towards your favorite Arbonne health and wellness products with Lisa. A spot on the podcast. A 60-minute goal setting session with Karen. A 30-minute prep session for your child's upcoming IEP meeting with Lisa. 30-day midlife self-care journal PDF. And the list goes on.
We are so excited to have you as part of the Drinks with the Girls Pod Squad support team, and we are excited to see who wins each month because after all, we're all in this together. Cheers.
Cheers.
I think also generational. I think, although my mom, she was a terrible housekeeper. I think that's where I get it. My mom was not scrubbing the floor, doing things like that. But I certainly think it was of their generation for that to be valued. Like that was ingrained into them that, you want your house to look clean. That has a reflection on you.
And my mom was really working out her own generational trauma, right? Like she was a child of divorce, a really bad divorce. And, she was going to make her marriage work no matter what. And there was, all those 50s things that she didn't quite meet my dad with the martini at the end of the day, but it was pretty darn close, right? And, divorce is another topic, but I think that a lot of these cognitive load, mental load, chores, the stuff we're talking about right now, those were a lot of issues that made my mom probably the most unhappy in her marriage. And, a lot of this came out after she died. So I don't think any of us realized how hard my mom had to work to make my dad palatable to the world until that point, because he pissed everybody else off and lost his support system, right? And it was like, oh my God, she was the one that was filtering all this, and now that's not there, right? And I think, unfortunately, with this, like, I'm going to make my marriage work no matter what the cost, I think in a lot of ways she enabled his worst behaviors for so long because of that trauma. And I think, sadly, she felt really trapped in the end because she couldn't bring herself to leave, and especially when she got sick. And then, it's kind of like with your mom, it's like she got sick, and then what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, my mom's situation was a little similar in that, although she had a second marriage to my stepdad. She and my dad were divorced when I was 2. Then she got remarried. So she was the main breadwinner with my stepdad. And he started out the marriage, kind of contributing financially and that. And then after a while, he stopped. So she was literally doing handling the mental load, the emotional load, and the physical load, and the financial load. And it wore her down. And I think I know how unhappy she was, but she didn't feel like she could leave because she already had one divorce under her belt. And then, of course, cancer showed up, and that was that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've literally had a real conversation with both my father and my husband, like sitting at the table, where I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't get the memo. When did we have the meeting that I was the one that did all the hard things now, right? And that speaks to like the sandwich generation, all those things. But I'm like, I'm sorry, but there's nowhere is it written that if it is hard, Lisa does it. That this is bullshit. Like, I'm not,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And especially if it has to do with any type of caregiving or caretaking, right? When my stepmom had her stroke in 2021, she needed a massive amount of care. She was paralyzed on one side, totally bedridden, not mobile, and was on a feeding tube. And when my dad brought her home, we had to learn how to care for her. And learning that feeding tube was a doozy.
I can't even imagine.
And I mean, there's a reason I am not a nurse or a doctor. So I tried really hard to set my boundary with my dad. Like, I'm here to do other things and support you guys, but the medical stuff, I really, I was trying to say, I can't do this. I'm not a nurse. This is hard. But I never really had a choice. And it wasn't like there was a big, huge conversation about it because we're all in the midst of chaos with
Yep.
everything. But he never got trained in how to
Imagine
care
that.
for her. My sisters and I got trained in how to care for her. And we were the ones that cared for her. And we thought we could be her primary caregivers for about 2 weeks. And then we're like, oh,
Yeah.
hell no.
I bet. Yeah. It's
But
hard.
just, yeah, oh my gosh, it's not, wow, it's not sustainable. It's extremely hard. But yeah, just the total double standard that, and he would tell me when the nurses came in to train us, my sisters were in, learning the feeding tube, and I'm kind of like hanging back because I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't know if I can do this. And my dad looks at me, he's like, get in there, nurse. When he stayed out, and he never learned, and so I've just had to, and he used to tell people too, I'm so glad I have daughters. Like when people would talk to him about how, my stepmom was doing and everything. And he would just be like, I'm so glad I have daughters because we literally took care. And luckily there were 4 of us and we could share the wealth, right? Because it's hard when you're the only, right? And so being able to share it made it tolerable. But I have been working through a lot of my resentments towards my dad during that time. I mean, I love him to pieces, but yeah, it was just, and we'll talk about caregiving another time.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you know me, I feel you. And it's weird how our experiences kind of bookend. Like you lost your mom very early on, and then I lost my mom, and then you lost your bonus mom. So we've kind of like been living this cycle, right? But we live right next to my parents. They had this large farm when my children were young. We'd just gotten back from teaching overseas, and they had a cottage, and we'd lived there. We'd lived there before, and then we lived there when we came back. And my mom's cancer had just been diagnosed. Her Parkinson's was kicking up, but we didn't really know it at the time. There's just a lot going on. And, I saw the writing on the wall from a very early time. I mean, this house is 5,000 square feet. It's got 3 floors. There's 100 acres. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And I remember sitting them down and saying, as my mom was getting sick, I mean, I think right out of the gate, it was stage 3, I want to say. And she ended up recovering, I guess you could say, from the breast cancer. But what happened was it put the Parkinson's on steroids, and that's what eventually took her life, were complications from Parkinson's. But I remember sitting down and telling them, I think you guys need to think ahead, right? Like you have this huge house. Why don't you turn the upstairs into an apartment so you could have a caregiver, like so you could stay out here, right? And they looked at me like I had 5 heads. And my mom was like, well, we'll never get our money back on that. And I was like, well, that's not at
Not
all
the point.
what I'm saying, right? And I tried to oh my God, this story is like the same, right? I was trying to set my boundaries, right? Stop me when this sounds familiar. And I remember, so I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I remember they were in the bathtub, right? Like you can't leave a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old in a bathtub by themselves, like period, end of story, right? And my husband brings me the phone, and it's my dad, and he's like, and if I walked out of my cottage, like I could see their bedroom, like it was literally like maybe a 5-minute walk away, right? And he's like, I need you to come. Your mom's hurt her back and she needs some care. And I'm like, I have kids in the bathtub right now. Like I can't do that. And he was like, well, leave him with your husband. You need to come over here right now. Like that's what, literally, I remember him saying something like, that's what you do as a good daughter. And it was like, so I went up, right? And I'm helping her, and she is not in a good way. And my dad's sitting at his computer the whole time, right? And I remember walking home that night and saying to my husband, like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we have got to move, because if we don't, my life is going to be consumed with my retired dad's busy schedule and his refusal to help. He wouldn't hire help, right? And these expectations that I was going to just drop everything because I'm a good daughter. Like,
oh, I feel that so deeply. Yes. Like I'm taken right back to, when my bonus mom was still alive. And at the time I lived about an hour plus away, and there would always be some kind of a crisis or something, like weekly. And, you would drop everything, no matter what you're doing, working, parenting, whatever. And luckily my kids were older, but you were expected to drop everything and head over. And it's just, it became a very, like you're in survival mode.
Yep.
You're just in this place of like just crisis. Your nervous system is just, mine was just blown out. My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women in midlife unapologetically design a life they're in love with. My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and juicy things I have coming up, like my in-person retreat called Exhale in October 2024. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives.
And one of the ways that I kind of, I don't know what the word is, but just like process this trauma, because I felt so alone and I was just so messed up by the way, my dad kind of chose to handle these things. And I ended up starting this virtual support group for alums in my college because I just didn't want people to feel as alone as I did when I was wading through all this, just having no clue. And they were managing it so badly. And I remember getting in an argument with both of them. And I remember they're like, "You're just so angry at us. Like, we have the right to make choices." And I was like, "Yeah, you do. But I also have the right to be angry at you for making really stupid choices. Sorry, I don't get to agree with them." Right.
I had a lot of anger about my dad not having a plan.
Oh, yeah.
Not planning for this, and just the expectation that my sisters and I were going to just come in and handle it all.
Yep. And I don't know that my parents didn't have a plan. They had long-term care, but I mean, the planning and the reality is a whole different story, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I started this group and it's just been, I did it for me. My mom is kind of the patron saint, and I think she would be happy knowing that, right? But I listen to these women talk and they are suffering, man. This is a sandwich generation. And a lot of them, have elderly parents and they have needs, and everybody's, they are expecting these women to deal with what they never would have expected they had to deal with, right? And poor planning and all that. And it's at the same time, right? They're trying to raise their family, managing their jobs, all these things. And people are just, they're rough, man. They're at their wits' end. And of course, right, where do they turn? This community of women that they connect to and share and relate and get help from. I started it in, 2018, I want to say. And there's almost 1,500 women in it. And remember, the population is from my college, but everybody's always it's the only reason I stay on Facebook. And I'm not trying to toot a horn. I'm just saying,
Toot, toot.
I've clearly identified a nerve, right? People are, yeah. But again, right, here we go, back to the podcast, a community of women that they connect to, share, relate, get help from.
Yeah. And I think in that way, women are more apt to do something like that, join a Facebook group to get support, because that is more, almost acceptable, I guess. To be in community with women, I feel like that's a natural thing for us, versus setting boundaries or, declaring what our needs are or saying no, or things like that. And I mean, that's incredible. 1,500 women in there that are getting that kind of support because, yeah, it's sometimes you're where else do I turn?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not oh, let me pause my life and go to a support group on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Come on, it's just, it's completely unrealistic. And here's the thing, so we have all this stuff going on, right? And all these different things. And what ends up giving is us, right? So
Yeah.
I always say, right, women our age have decided that the time for big dreams is over. And it breaks my heart because they're well, something's got to give. And I guess it's me. And it's just,
Yeah, I'm not here for that at all. And that's why I do what I do. Because women, in their 40s and 50s, after decades of operating like this, yeah, they just, we just throw our hands up and we're there's got to be more. What happened to my dreams and what happened to the things that I want? And not that we can't do that simultaneously while, taking care of the people we love, but for the fact that our desires are nowhere near the front burner, it fires me up.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I had that whole conversation right about the time that menopause hit. And I know we'll dive deeper into that whole topic. But Yeah, I do think that, and I think that's the gift that our generation has, right? I think we are just done with like, oh, well, I guess that's the way it is, especially with menopause and all that. Like all of us are just like, all right, no, like there's got to be another level. There's got to be another question. Like what can we do? So,
And that is the beauty, I think, of getting older, because we're just like, oh no, F this stuff.
yeah,
I'm trying to censor myself. But, I am so glad that we are having this conversation, because trying to be super women at the expense of our own needs is a lonely place. So if any of you, our listeners, find yourself relating to what we're saying, we want you to know we see you. There's nothing wrong with how you're feeling. If you're feeling depleted or resentful even, or wanting something different, you're not alone.
Yeah, we'd really love to hear your stories. What about this resonates for you? Please reach out and share. And in the meantime, we will see you on the next episode of Drinks with the Girls.
Cheers.